Hi everyone, I'm Sarah.
I'm Jonathan.
And you're listening to Esoteric Oddities. This episode today is going to be a little bit different.
The recent police brutality against Black people specifically should have never happened, and we don't stand for the violence to happen again because these people were murdered at the hands of those who are sworn in to protect and serve. I am a white male, so I acknowledge my privilege.
And I'm a white woman, and we both grew up in America.
And that's been our experience. We both have our voices to use online as well as with friends and family. And this might be some regurgitated information if you've seen the video I've already put out, but I think this is important to talk about. Because we have this podcast, we've got amazing listeners, and we don't take you guys for granted. But it would feel unauthentic to us to not use this platform to have this conversation.
A lot of people have a fear of speaking up. A lot of the times they don't know what to say. And I feel like that's okay, judging on the system that we've been raised on and how society is.
And with that being said, neither of us are experts on what to say. Like you said, I've had conversations with numerous fellow white friends, some not friends.
Yes, and family.
Yeah, and exactly. And I have noted that people haven't said anything for fear of like not knowing what to say, not being sure if they're going to convey their message properly, or, you know, especially when you're posting online, things can be taken out of context.
Right.
They're not really sure the best way to handle this situation. I think a lot of white people, I have spoken to a couple specifically, don't think it is our problem or our place to be doing something or saying something. However, systemically, it is our place to be standing up with the Black Lives Matter movement,
right,
and saying we support the Black Lives Matter movement and
100%.
saying Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
Because in support with the movement, one of the wrong things you can say is nothing at all. And I think a lot of people don't like to hear that. A lot of people don't know exactly how to react. Like, I feel like a knee-jerk reaction from a lot of white people is to defend themselves, or just
I didn't
to say,
know, but you should be educating yourself. Research. The education's out there. It's really just in Google. There's so many things of Black history that we were not taught in school, and it's another thing added to the systematic racism that Black people have to deal with.
Exactly. And it's, you know, a wonderful thing that we live in the age of technology where we have access to so much information, so much free information. Just make sure it's credible information.
Always.
And, you know, I can't go on Instagram right now and see. Now, granted, I don't know who other people follow, but I go on Instagram and I see all these people posting all of these great articles educating me on things that I didn't know about. And that's great because I take the time to research them. And I think everybody, white people specifically, need to be taking the step and educating themselves. Now, I had made a post that I was angry, and I made a post that basically said, if you have not taken action by now, I don't fuck with you. And I meant it.
Listen, I've unfollowed friends of years for being silent. I don't have the space.
I think also by taking action, it can mean educating yourself. I encourage people to post online to keep the conversation going, but it's the difference that you're making, like with your friends,
outside of the social media,
with your right, with that racist aunt or that racist uncle that you see posting on Facebook. Right. So it's just kind of educating yourself. Start with you. If you don't know where to start and you don't know what to post, you're afraid to post something, start with yourself. Educate yourself.
Educate yourself.
And again, there's so many amazing resources out there that you can find with a quick Google search. And so
especially now in this time, I feel like there's a lot of resources that are being showed.
It's not a good idea to ask your fellow Black friends what to do or how you can help.
No.
Because the burden isn't laying on them
it's
to
on
explain
you
to you.
teach yourself and educate yourself and learn.
Yeah. And Sarah, what you just said, like things we didn't learn in school, there's so much that they omitted from your history books.
Yeah, literally.
That is so important to learn about. And it's kind of like myself, I can only speak for myself. I feel like kind of, you get the guilt, but also like how have I not taken, how have I not opened my own eyes? Like, and that's on me.
Did this before. I agree.
Right, that's on me.
I mean, I've always been kind of like, I've always checked like my family members and friends, but I felt like I have never educated myself of the actual oppression that's been going on. Or
at least further educated yourself. Yes. With that being said, there are also those people who have posted online that, you saw a lot of people posting the Black Square on Blackout Tuesday, but Tuesday's passed and a lot of people are silent.
Yeah.
I don't want to deter people from posting hashtag Black Lives Matter online, because that is a good way to keep the conversation going online. But there's footwork that you gotta do that is not online. Also, there's the fucking performative advocacy that companies are showing us. I think a lot of places are posting Black Lives Matter just because they don't want the backlash of staying silent.
Yep, exactly. But they're not like, really, what are you actually doing?
I saw a post by somebody. Somebody posted like, that's great, thanks for posting Black Lives Matter, but let's see a photograph of your top CEOs or your top people in power here.
I saw that.
Because, within companies, it's
not very diverse.
Right.
So here are some resources that you can help support Black Lives and Black Lives Matter outside of social media. You can support more Black businesses, and you could also donate. I have some places that I have researched. I got this information from Steph Seems Okay on Instagram. You can donate to the Black Trans Travel Fund, the Black Lives Matter Fund, the Femme Empowerment Project, COVID Bailout NYC, Unicorn Riot, and Innocence Project. Again, those are some places that you could donate to.
And if you have the money and you have the ability to donate, I really think you should. Also, good resources, blacklivesmatter.carrd.co. They've got a list of places you could donate, places you can text or call. They've got petitions. Let's talk petitions. They can really make a difference. And there was one night where I just kind of felt helpless. So I sat down and I started reading through all these petitions, and I shared them with my brother and my cousin, and we spent a couple hours. I think it was actually last Tuesday that we were doing that. And, petitions don't cost you money to do. However, when you're doing them, if you're doing it on change.org, I would not suggest donating to them, because it'll take you to a donate page, but those donations are not going to that petition, who that petition is for. It's going to the change.org. So if you want to donate to them specifically, again, I would go to blacklivesmatter.carrd.co. That's a good place to start. Also, don't just sign petitions to sign petitions.
Yeah, you could go out and protest like I did.
Right, yes, but on top of, that's a very good point. On top of that, when you're signing petitions, read through the description of it. Also, pull up an article and see if you can look up a little bit more, so
what you're signing on
to petition. And you understand the story of the person or the fundraiser or what have you, or the organization that is behind what you're signing. It's kind of your responsibility to, do a little bit more footwork than just, oh, I signed a petition, I did my work, I did good, and that's that, And like you said, if you go out and you protest, we are still in a pandemic. So
totally understandable if you don't want to put yourself out there.
Right, but if you do, wear a mask. I'm not a professional on suggesting anything for people protesting.
Bring water. It's hot out.
Yes, depending on where you are. Yes. You are protesting. There's podcasts you can listen to. If you're listening to this podcast, there are plenty of others that you can listen to that you can learn from Black creators. Sarah said organizations to donate to. Follow organizations on social media. It's free to follow an organization and just kind of stay up to date with what's going on and further educating yourself and things you didn't know that you needed to know. at the end of the day, Sarah nor I stand for police brutality against Black people. Mm-hmm. But again, there is, that's not the only issue here. It goes so much deeper. And
this is why it's important to educate yourself on the oppression that has happened.
Right. And I am not an expert on legislative policy at all. But with that being said, I know a lot of our listeners are American. And our statistics tell us you are over the age, for the most part, of 18. So if you are an American over the age of 18, please register to vote if you're not already.
So important.
After that, educate yourself on what is going to be on your ballot. I found that vote411.org does a really good job of breaking it down into easy, really digestible information. If you feel like you're overwhelmed by everything that's going on in the world, one, good, because there's a lot going on in the world.
Yes,
and two,
you should feel that way.
It's not a reason for you to shut down and not do anything. It is so important that we
stand up for what's right.
Stand up for what's right and make sure you vote. That's part of standing up for what is right, because we are living through history right now, believe it or not. We are living through history right now. So you need to do your part as a human being for what is right. You need to show up at the polls, because it is not only your right as an American, but your responsibility as a human being to show up and vote, to take action, be an ally.
Show up for Black people.
Yes, be a good fucking human being, because Black Lives Matter. Fellow white people, I know people get defensive, but you got to check yourself, and you're personally responsible to realize your bias that has been ingrained in us for...
And people aren't going to argue with you why you should be that way. They're going to leave you in the dust.
And, once you recognize your bias, you can see how it can affect just a single person, and know that your life, you're not going to ever experience something that somebody else is ever going to experience. So when you recognize it, you can educate yourself and you can start to make a change. And again, it doesn't happen overnight. This takes time and focus. So make sure that, you're not letting the dust settle. Don't continue to stay silent. Do your part. Because now's the fucking time. Now is the fucking time. And if you have any specific organizations, any Black-owned businesses that you want to shed light on, please let us know. Tag us on Instagram. Tag us on Twitter. Send us an email, odditiespodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you, to promote, because again, it's our duty as human beings. We're all living on the same planet, and the systemic racism is bullshit, and it's got to fucking stop. So let's keep the conversation going, because Black lives
do matter, and let's continue to be allies, and let's not let it stop here.
Yeah, and I love to think that all of our listeners are taking action, but if you need to hear this, you need to hear us. Part of being a good person, you got to take action on this.
I agree.
You cannot, I don't think you can continue to stay silent. And if you do, again, I'm not asking you to post a whole bunch of stuff on social media without reading it. I'm saying take action, read, have conversations with your fellow white friends and your family, and check in with each other and check yourself. Again, Sarah nor I are professionals or experts in any way on how to articulate anything that we have just said in the past, however long we've been recording. But we just want to let you know, if you are a Black listener, we stand with you. We stand with the Black Lives Matter movement. We're going to continue to do everything
whatever
that we can do.
Yes.
This episode you're about to hear was recorded before May 25th, so before George Floyd was murdered, and it did not feel right to put out. We did not want to distract from everything that was going on. We really just want everyone's attention to be on the Black Lives Matter movement and to listen and to learn. So as you listen to this episode, maybe it can be a bit of an escape, a bit of a distraction for you. I know a lot of people need it. This episode, it's not about murder or true crime. So relax, enjoy, laugh if you can, if we're even funny. But just know that we are continuing to do our part. And we know that you will too. So we love you, stay safe, and enjoy this episode.
The podcast you're about to hear involves true stories, which may contain graphic content that is not suitable for children. Listener's discretion is advised. This is Esoteric Oddities.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Esoteric Oddities. I am Jonathan.
I'm Sarah.
And if you didn't know, we've got a website, esotericoddities.com. And if you go to the top, click episodes, you can see pictures and our show notes and all of our sources that we're using for these stories, as well as more pictures, because when we're on social media, I think we're capping at like 4 pictures now. I used to do 8. I was going in, but we're not going to, not anymore. And we would greatly appreciate it if you head to iTunes or Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star review. It helps us out a lot. It helps us out more than you know.
And buy our merch.
Yeah, if you would like to, we also have merch on our website and bonus content. And if you get access to our bonus content for just $5 a month, you get not only our future episodes, but the entire backlog of our previous episodes, which are not just like audio episodes. We've done videos too. It's been a while since we've done a video. We should
yeah, I keep forgetting.
When we're not in COVID. But you know what could be fun if we do like a Zoom situation?
Oh, yeah, that would be really fun. But I'm mad because I was looking at those mini dip pools and I pictured us like doing a photo shoot in the pool.
Oh my God. Can we please? I have a little shitty plastic pool in my goddamn shower downstairs.
And I almost asked you, like, can we do it? And then I remembered, like, no, there's a pandemic happening.
Yeah, I haven't actually, like, seen you in 2 months.
2 months, yeah. Wow.
Cheese and rice. But before we jumped on here, I was telling Sarah a little story, and she was like, why aren't we just recording this stupid conversation? Because God knows how long it's going to go on. But it's really not. So let's take that bar that you were setting high and let's just place it on the floor and step over it.
I think it's funny.
Maybe kick dirt on it. So I got, the rumors are true, everybody. I got an OtterBox case for my phone. You read the headlines correctly. TMZ.
It's Paris Hilton up in here with her OtterBox.
With her OtterBox. I got an OtterBox. And I haven't had one since probably freshman year of college. And I told Sarah, I remembered, I got an OtterBox because Sarah had an OtterBox.
Okay,
and I was like,
because I'm cool. I'm the cool one.
You are the cool one. I
no
want
way.
to be just like you. In situations when you moved back home, like the next year and the following year, I would always be like, what would Sarah do in this situation? Most of the outcomes would not be good. It would involve like maybe throwing a drink in somebody's face, getting my head hit with a ceiling fan, but always make for a good story because that's what it is.
It's funny because one of my friends told me that I would have like no reaction to things. Like I would just be like, okay. And I was like, where did that person go?
It depends. I think it depends on what situation you find yourself in. But anyway, back to the OtterBox. Hashtag not sponsored, by the by. But yeah, I got an OtterBox because Sarah had an OtterBox. Anyway, I got a new one, and I saw they were selling them online, like still for like $65, $70 plus shipping and handling. Why do I have to pay for handling if they drop the package? It's really no big deal. Am I wrong?
Okay, like what are you handling?
So I found it on Mercari. If you don't know what Mercari is, again, not sponsored, but it's like Depop where people just resell things. It's a reseller. It's an app. It's super easy. So I found one on there that was not in the package, but it was like basically brand new. So I bought that shit for $12 free shipping. Hell yes. The girl DM'd me. She was just like, hey, you bought it and my mail hasn't come today. So lucky you. It's going to come to you like before the date that it's going to tell you. And I was like, oh my God, I love that for my journey. So it did come really fast. It's great quality. I'm living for it. I'm loving it. But the only thing is, this shit smells like it was in a house with a stripper who chain smoked cigarettes on the daily. It smells so intense like cigarettes. And look, if you smoke cigarettes, you do you. I suggest you quit. But at the same time, like the outside of the OtterBox is rubber, so it's holding in all of that stink. And I tried to wipe it down. I have these Lysol wipes that's like Lysol Scentiva. Again, not sponsored.
I love those ones.
We are just dropping names. Like we should be getting paid for
this.
I know,
anyway. Right? What the fuck?
I tried doing that, didn't work. I sanitized it, I let it soak. I sat it next to, this probably didn't do shit, but I sat it next to an open box of baking soda because I thought that would be something. Well, guess what, bitch? It didn't. It stank. So I started doing keto again, and I don't know anybody personally who's ever had keto flu except for me, because I know a couple people who've done keto. Nobody seems to be getting keto flu but me.
I'm so scared to do it because I don't want keto flu.
It's not good. It sucks. And maybe it's because I'm vegetarian, or maybe it's just like my stomach. Maybe I have like weird stomach issues, but I got the phone case on a Friday. I wake up Saturday morning with it next to my head. I'm a little bit hungover.
Ew,
but
I can't. That's nasty.
Along with the hangover is the keto flu that hit me like a big yellow school bus. And when I got a whiff of that fucking cell phone case, I legitimately like tossed my phone across the room. And I can honestly say I tested that shit. The phone case works because that shit flew and it hit my wall. The wall's got a little ding in it, but that's fine. We bought spackle a couple weeks ago. All this to say, this is not as good of a story as you anticipated. And that's my story about the OtterBox. And see, that's why I didn't want to record it, because it was the stupidest story.
No, but oh my God, I think it's funny.
I do remember when we all got OtterBoxes, because I think you kind of set that trend.
I was like, yeah, you have to get it because it'll protect your phone.
Yeah, for all the dumb shit we used to do. Exactly. Remember when we fell out of the window?
Yeah, I remember when I like slammed my finger in the window and it got like purple, and I thought it was gonna have to amputate it away.
Amputate it off. Don't make fun of me.
I really thought, I was like, this shit's gonna have to come off. Like I'm missing a finger now.
But you didn't, and you still got all your fingers. You got that 5-finger discount, baby. I took up a new hobby.
What is your hobby?
Pickle things, bitch. I'm pickling. I be in the kitchen pickling things. How do you do it? I cannot give away my recipe.
Oh, it's Mr. Krabs, everyone.
I hate you. Here's the exclusive recipe that I found on Pinterest.
Oh,
literally,
yeah.
it's just like it's like water and vinegar and pickling spice, and I added extra spice. I added some hot sauce. I added some jalapenos in this. Bitch.
Wow, you should trademark your recipe.
Even though it's literally somebody else's recipe. Well, I gave it a little flair.
Yeah, you gave it a little Jonathan.
Yeah, I did dill. I tried one today. I wasn't supposed to, but I had to get my hands in the cookie jar because I made them yesterday. That. I think I'm supposed to wait a little longer, but I tried it today. It's a lot sweeter than I thought it was going to be. I would definitely change it up. But, bitch, it's good. Like, I be pickling.
I love that. Pickle your way to the top.
I'm gonna pickle my way to the top. Nobody's gonna frickin' stop me.
Okay, there are now.
And maybe if you're lucky, you'll find one in your mailbox.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Oh my God, wait. Okay, let's talk about us being stupid for a second before we get into fucking quantum physics and this bitch.
Okay, yeah, I'm scared.
So, speaking of pickles, Sarah and I, there we are in the grocery store doing a little grocery run with our friend Julia, and we're shopping for pickles because we love doing pickleback shots. This is when we lived together, so like that pickles was like a thing. Great. It was pickleback shots, or I would chase my shots with hot sauce if we didn't have anything, Taco Bell seasoning. Like, listen, desperate times call for desperate measures, but never sober measures. That sounds like problematic, but it's not, I promise.
It's not a problem for us.
There we are in the store picking out our pickles, and both of us are like, oh, should we get polished pickles or dill pickles? Nothing was said till we get in the next aisle. And Julia's like, wait, did you guys just said polished pickles? And I don't know what we were thinking.
It's polished pickles.
Bitch, it's Polish pickles.
Right.
What the fuck is wrong with us?
Why didn't we know that?
Oh my God.
How do you, okay, so like aren't they spelled the same?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, so how would we know?
Right, but Sarah, contextually, you and I, with our brains combined, should have not both said polished pickles. We shouldn't have said polished pickles.
Is that called an idiom? What is that?
No, that's called an idiot. That's called two idiots, one grocery store.
No, for real though. What is that called when like it's like red read?
Homophone.
Homophone a friend after this episode.
For real. So, in our last episode, we talked about some psychic moments we had, and we told you to email us. And you guys came through. Who kicked me off the Wi-Fi? I got kicked off the damn Wi-Fi.
Ooh.
Oh my freaking gosh. How am I supposed to look at Boobapedia later?
Okay. Okay, so this email is from Helen. I'm not going to say her last name because
we're not trying to expose
okay.
nobody.
So Helen says, "Hey guys, I have a couple of psychic things that have happened to me in my life. Firstly, me and my boyfriend had a weird psychic connection when we were young. We were born..."
Wait, it says brother. I'm sorry.
Oh, fuck.
Sorry, go on.
It's okay. Firstly, me and my brother had a weird psychic connection when we were younger. We were born 1 year and 18 days apart, so we were very close growing up. We would always say the same thing at the same time, etc., but that could be put down to spending so much time together. Fast forward to when my brother and I were teenagers. I am 15, he is 16, and as we had grown up, the connection had dwindled as we had grown apart. Anyway, I was watching my brother play rugby stood next to my mom. Out of nowhere, I blurt, "Tom's broken his collarbone." It was completely involuntary. My mom looks at me and says, "Don't be silly." We turn back to watch the game, and about 3 seconds later, my brother falls to his knees, clenching his shoulder. An ambulance was called, and when we got to the hospital, his x-ray showed a broken collarbone. Weird. Also, there was a time when I was in my 20s when I just knew when people were pregnant. It lasted about 4 years, and I started to make notes of when I first had that feeling of knowing someone was pregnant. About 90% of the time, 10 to 12 weeks after I had the feeling, people would announce they were pregnant. It happened with my 2 best friends, but the rest of the time it was friends of friends and people who worked at the same company as me.
What was that?
It was me breathing.
Oh. Not on this podcast. What do you think this is?
I don't know if the 10% of the time it was never announced, I was just wrong, or if the pregnancy sadly didn't progress. It became so strange I mentioned it to my family, and over dinner once, my dad told me that my grandma, his mother, had the same gift. I like to think I inherited it from her, and I also like to think that I might have known some people were pregnant before they knew themselves. Like I said before, it only lasted like 3 years and stopped as mysteriously as it began. I never had kids myself, so it has nothing to do with that. Quick note on Maxine Carr from episode 114. There's an interview she gave to a local reporter when the girls were just missing, where she spoke about a card Holly gave her and how lovely Holly was. Very chilling, and she gives the YouTube thing. Thank you so much, Helen, for providing that link.
Yeah, thank you. So before we get to that, the Maxine Carr, that was the redhead, that was the teacher from the last episode that Sarah read. And in this, I haven't watched yet because I didn't even read that email until you just read it now. But she linked us, and I guess it's and of course I can't open it because my Wi-Fi is not working. I'll put it on the website on episode 114. I'll put it with that episode.
Oh, cool.
So, ew, that's so creepy. She says Holly was in the past tense.
Right.
When they were just missing, like that. Ooh, I don't like that. Especially, oh my God, watching it, knowing that what
she's
the fuck
dead
she
already.
did.
And like, those are little things that people don't pick up on.
But
Helen did, because Helen knows.
Disgusting. Because Helen knows. Also, okay, thank you for submitting, Helen. One, you have to be from the UK. I'm going to make that assumption because you said mum and because you were talking about rugby. We don't have rugby.
No.
I don't think we have. Do we have rugby?
Mm-mm.
Maybe we do.
And I feel like if it is, it's like not real.
Do you think it's a womanly thing? Because I feel like you, Sarah, you've had this type of thing where you know if it's a boy or a girl. Like, you've been very good calling that shit out. We have to be connected in some way because, like Helen said, when she would say things that her brother said, like, and it could be put down as spending so much time together. Yeah, but like subconsciously, here's a weird thing that I can kind of relate to this. Mark, my cousin, my best friend growing up, I live with him now. I used to live out in Chicago and he's from here in Pennsylvania. So he would come out and visit me. When we would wake up in the morning, we would wake up at the same exact time. Like, no alarm, not because we're making noises. That's so weird. It was a constant thing. And I truly think it's because when you spend so much time with people, like,
you start to sync up.
We give off energy. And like, if my brainwaves were sending out like, oh, I'm awake, like my lobes are opening or whatever the fuck happens. When you wake up, whatever the fuck that is, like the other person, maybe just because it's close in proximity, maybe it's, I don't know, maybe your
Yeah, well,
twin
Helen also said that her
flames.
grandma had the same gift, so I'm guessing maybe it, like, runs in her family, and I'm also wondering if her brother has the same.
I wonder. I ponder. And I'll have to ponder forever because my Wi-Fi doesn't fucking work. So even if she emails me, I can't. Anyway, thank you, Helen, for your email.
Thanks, Helen.
Okay, the next email says, "Hey guys,
It's us.
It's us. Greetings from the smallest town you've ever heard of in Tennessee." You didn't name the town, but we're not trying to stalk you anyway. I've been listening. The smallest town you've ever heard of in Tennessee, Nashville. I'm just kidding. I've been listening since 2017, and you continue to be one of my favorite podcasts. Oh my god, thank you so much. You asked for our psychic experiences, so here's mine. This happened in 2008 when I was in high school. I was living with my mom. I woke up one night with excruciating pain in my abdomen. I was nearly moaning in pain when my older sister, who had fallen asleep on the couch in the living room, woke up when she heard me. She got up, woke up our mom, and when I explained my pain, my mom said that it may have been my appendix. Almost after the moment she said appendix, the pain went away. My abs felt sore, but the pain had gone away almost like a switch had been flipped.
Oh, shit.
We went to the hospital to be sure, but there was nothing wrong with my appendix. I woke up late the next day when I heard our phone ring. Yes, this was years ago, but we still have a home phone. You know what? You got to do it. Listen, long live the landline.
Okay, please.
It was my stepmom who was calling to inform my mother that my dad was in the hospital after his appendix had ruptured.
Wow, what?
It was really scary and confusing, and my dad is okay now. It's a fun story my sister likes to force me to tell annually at Christmas, and everyone is sick of hearing it. So I thought a fresh set of ears might enjoy it.
We enjoyed it.
We enjoyed it. Nothing that strange has happened to me before. Nothing has happened since. I don't know if I believe in psychics, but the fact that the feeling went away as soon as my mom said the word appendix makes me think it somehow was a sign. Thanks for the research you do. You guys make my Mondays suck less. Your ugly friend, Brandy. Oh, thanks,
Thank
Brandy.
you, Brandy.
That's scary shit. Can I
know,
just,
right?
sidebar that and say, knock on wood, but, a ruptured appendix is some shit I'm never trying to have happen in my life. That scares the shit out of me. I can't imagine how painful that is, but, that's another thing. I wonder if it has something to do with if you share this thing with people in your family, because it was her dad.
Maybe that's the connection. One time this kid, he stabbed me in the arm with a pencil in not high school, in I guess elementary school. Yeah, his appendix burst the next day.
You little witch bitch. That's what he gets. That is karma.
I said,
bitch.
Sir.
Bye. Stab me. I got stabbed too.
Why do kids love stabbing other kids with pencils?
I have no idea, but I still have a scar from it. It's in my side.
Yeah.
It was in between my ribs, and I never told anybody.
Forever.
I just sat in pain, and it was weird because I didn't hate the kid.
You didn't say anything?
No, because here's the thing. I was in 7th grade. I was in Mr. Pereno's homeroom, and the kid sat next to me. His name was Alex, and he was the one kid who looked like he was in high school. I don't know. He must have hit puberty in 4th grade. He was super tall. He was muscular. He looked like he was held back, but he wasn't. I remember he stole his mom's car. He tried to drive to Mexico.
Oh my God, that's a mess.
It was a mess. This was all in 7th grade. So he was a little scary, but also he never he was always in my corner because of homeroom. His last name, we always sat next to each other for 3 years, from 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. But he just, I don't know. I think he was, I don't know what the fuck we were talking about, but he just stabbed me with a pencil. He just shanked me. I think maybe jokingly, but I still have a scar. And that's how I once again turned a story back into a story about me. So sorry.
I just did the same thing. I can't stop.
Well, that's the only way. Didn't we just talk about this? That's how I relate is
yeah, and oh my God, that happened to me too. One time I was just on my bike and I fell.
Yeah, but then it's wow, I just took your story and I made it about me. But I didn't mean to. I was just trying to relate. But I'm glad your dad's okay, Brandy. Thank you guys for submitting. If you
so
submitted after that, I'm sorry we didn't read it, but maybe one day we'll read it. But anyway, if you have a joint rolled, I'm going to ask you to please go ahead and light it.
Light it now.
Today, we are talking about something we are totally not qualified at all to be talking about, and
not
that
even one
is
bit.
Fucking outer space. My bitches.
My bitches.
My bitches, okay? So, let's start off by saying horrifying. I mean, fascinating, but horrifying. It's so big.
It's so scary.
It doesn't end. It's just like a mass of nothingness, but at the same time, it's everything, and I just can't wrap my head around it. Have you ever thought, and I swear I'm not high, but have you ever thought about how vast space is and how it just keeps expanding, and how the fuck does time work? How does time and space work?
Do you ever think about how we're technically in space because the Earth is in space?
And how our concept of reality isn't really reality.
Not real.
Because it just blows my mind. What was anything before it was something?
Nothing.
Before the quote-unquote Big Bang. But it couldn't have been nothing because nothing is still something. But does that mean that it was nothing because there was no consciousness? This brings it back to, if a tree falls in the woods, did it make any noise if nobody was... Is anybody following?
Oh my god, right? And it's just, sometimes I get really into, how did we get here? Why do I look like this? How did... Listen,
I'm gonna tell a short story before we dive into what we're gonna be talking about today. But the last, I don't really smoke the marinara. Yeah. I have nothing against it, but I'm gonna go ahead and just tell a little. I'm gonna tell a little story because it used to be. I'm gonna tell a little story about the point at which it wasn't for me, which has to do with outer space. And Sarah, you were there. I may have told, did I tell, I feel like I may have told this already on this podcast, but I'm going to tell it anyway.
The floating pizza?
Yes. And out of context, it sounds insane. But Sarah and I were watching this video, easy baked oven, out to lunch. We weren't planning on coming back. And we're sitting in our living room and just we can't even open our eyes all the way. And we're just, 2015. Okay. Painting the picture. I was a lot thinner at the time.
Same.
God, miss those days. But we're watching this video where it was a music video or something. It was a documentary about a music video. Don't remember exactly what it was. I'm going to try to find the video and I'll post it. But I swear it was a music video. They sent a slice of pizza to space, or at least they were trying to. They put it on a plate. They attached a GoPro or some sort of camera. It might have been before GoPros. They attached a camera to it and they sent that shit up. And we watched this piece of pizza with ambient music playing in the background. And I lost my shit because once I saw it go above the clouds and when the sky stopped going blue and it started going black.
I'm saying that's beyond our Earth.
I was not. Can you vouch for me and say that that's probably why I stopped smoking? Was because I couldn't. I had so many thoughts. I swear to God, I had so many thoughts within a millisecond about outer space and about how we're so minuscule and we mean nothing. But it was not a good.
It was not a good.
It was not a comforting thought. No. It was oh my God.
What's happening?
There's too much going, and I was so uncomfortable. I remember getting clammy. I remember asking you to turn it off. I was like, Sarah, I can't do this. I can't watch this piece of pizza go into outer space because it's bugging me out, man. It's like having a bad trip, but yeah, that's so that's how my brain comprehends space. I had a panic attack watching a documentary about space in IMAX I'm pretty sure it was the Air and Space Museum in Washington.
It's too much.
It's too much. And I love it. I have an appreciation for it. And I'm like, oh my God, of course there's life out there. Why wouldn't there be? But it's just too much for my brain to comprehend. And when I can't comprehend something, I shut down. Okay. Me. Anyway, with that being said, Sarah and I, we're going to be cute little space cadets today.
Space people.
So we both got a story. But before we jump into Sarah's story, I'm just gonna run my mouth even more and just give you some crazy facts that I found online about space that kind of blew my mind. Again, we're not credible at all. Why are you listening to this podcast? So these facts that I'm going to be spitting at you are going to be verbatim articles that I found online. So really quick, some sources are space.com, Wikipedia, Agoria, Cosmopolitan, China Daily, and the Discovery Channel. Let's talk about some fucking crazy facts about space before we talk about aliens or parallel universes or whatever the fuck we're going to talk about. So, galactic cannibalism.
Oh my god, wait, I saw that.
Hi, what the fuck?
I love the way it looks. It's so pretty.
No, it's so scary.
I mean, like,
I get
it's
it, like,
scary, but it looks like a lot of colors mushed together, and who doesn't love that?
yeah, until it happens to us.
Yeah, I don't want to hear.
Right, but I think it might be here. Anyway, so, like life on Earth, galaxies can eat each other and evolve over time. The Milky Way's neighbor, Andromeda, is currently dining on one of its satellites. More than a dozen star clusters are scattered throughout Andromeda, the cosmic remains of past meals. I love the wording of this, I can't. I'm going to post an image, and it is an image of a simulation of Andromeda and our galaxy colliding, an event that will take place in about 3 billion years. So, like, I guess we can relax with that, because we gonna be long gone.
Okay, at that point.
I guess I tried to watch a video where people like explain it a little easier, and I guess like if two galaxies of similar sizes come too close into contact, their gravity is going to pull them together, and they're just going to be like one big Dakota. If anybody gets that reference from the Fairly Odd Parents.
One big Dakota.
But then if there's like one massive galaxy and a smaller galaxy, it just chomps that shit up. It just like
chomp.
Galaxy null and void. Like, I'm sorry, that's horrifying. Now let's talk about really quickly quantum entanglement, also known as spooky action. We love
spooky action.
Spooky action. So apparently this was famously dubbed spooky action at a distance by Albert Einstein. Quantum entanglement is the phenomena by which two particles in totally different parts of the universe. This kind of links back to Helen and her story, and also Brandy and her story, being psychic. This is the phenomenon by which two particles in totally different parts of the universe can be linked to one another, mirroring the other's behavior in the state of their partner. Quantum entanglement is a bit of a nuisance for classical physics because it breaks some of the fundamental laws that were previously thought unbreakable. Well, that's gotta be frustrating when you find out literally anything is possible. That was me talking off that article. That was a me quote, not the article. For particles to be connected across such vast distances, they must be sending signals to one another that travel faster than the speed of light, again, something previously considered impossible. What's more, objects are only supposed to be affected by their surroundings. The notion of a particle being affected by something happening on the other side of the universe is just strange and kind of unexplainable. Nonetheless, studies show that quantum entanglement does indeed exist. I'm like, I understand this, but I can't fathom it. Like, what the fuck?
What is what?
Like, I'm sorry, does that mean that one thing, okay, yeah, we can be in the same universe, but does that mean that there can be parallel universes within the same goddamn universe?
Yeah, I think so.
Who's to say no? Because, listen, spooky
also, there's so
action.
many things that we don't know about.
I know, it's fascinating but horrifying at the same time.
Yeah, it's like the ocean.
Don't even get me started. Listen, the ocean is on this planet, and that's horrifying enough. Let's take it up a notch, literally. Let's take it up like a bazillion feet, and let's just go in outer space.
Let's go there.
Let's go there. Nonetheless, studies suggest that quantum entanglement does indeed exist, and even though we don't understand it, we could still potentially use it. Because of its spooky characteristics, I love that, entanglement could eventually become the bedrock of next generation computing and communications. So I actually listened to Neil deGrasse Tyson try to explain this, and it just was over my head.
Yeah, it made me really anxious because I was like, I don't even know what this means, so I don't even know how to fact check it to make sure it's correct. So
yeah, and I mean, obviously, we went to college, but we didn't go to space college. I went to space camp. You don't even fucking go to space. You don't even fucking go to space.
Wow, what frauds.
What fucking bullshit. Hi, have you ever heard of false advertising, bitch? You ever heard of false advertising? You will be hearing from my father.
The inventor of toaster strudel.
The inventor of toaster strudel. Listen, okay. I've got a couple more things before you jump into your story. So, antimatter. Did you happen to read about antimatter?
I don't think I read about that one.
So, imagine yourself in opposite land. So basically a parallel universe that is everything's opposite. You've seen like episodes of TV shows about it. Just imagine that that's a real thing. Well, they're kind of on to something because this article says black is white, up is down, and matter is antimatter. It sounds crazy, but the subatomic particles that make up everything around us, electrons, protons, neutrons, all have evil twins. Antimatter particles are the same mass as normal particles, but opposite electric charge. And because of this, antimatter wipes out normal matter on contact. So if these two matters ever come together, they would just cancel each other out. Like, I'm sorry, that makes me rethink the pilot episode of Sister Sister. Like, what
right?
Like,
that's like not real,
right? Just two entities coming together and then just like disappearing because
it's too freaky to think about. Where do they go?
And my last thing is the space roar. So in space no one can hear you scream.
That's
right?
Creepy.
Because space is a vacuum, so there shouldn't be any noise, and yet there is. The entire universe is alive with sound. The space roar isn't just an everyday sound, it's actually these odd radio signals that we've detected throughout space. Again, this is from the article. When I say we've, me and Sarah ain't collecting shit, okay? I'm talking about NASA, space.com, China Daily, whoever the fuck wrote this article. Okay, so radio waves that we use for communications, TV, cell phones, radios, etc. Well, it looks like space is full of them, kicking out a noise that's loud enough to drown out other signals, which is quite the nuisance. That's the second time I've used that word in my entire life, let alone this podcast episode, which is quite a nuisance for scientists trying to explore the cosmos. So where is the roar coming from? Some think that it's leftover radiation from early stars. Others believe it's gases swirling around galaxy clusters or else galaxies themselves. But for now, the roaring universe remains another unsolved and noisy mystery. Or it's aliens, trying to communicate, but our technology is not advanced enough to retrieve the signals. That's just my own piece on that. Just saying.
Yeah, so let's get on our tinfoil hats for this alien abduction story. Most of these are direct quotes, so bear with me on this. On the evening of October 11th, 1973, two men by the name of Charles Hickson, who was 42 at the time, and Calvin Parker, who was 19, told the Jackson County, Mississippi Sheriff's Office they were fishing off a pier on the west bank of the Pascagoula River in Mississippi when they heard a whirring and whizzing sound. They also said they saw two flashing blue lights and an oval-shaped object that was about 30 to 40 feet and 18 to 10 feet high. Parker and Hickson claimed that they were conscious but paralyzed, while three creatures took them on a 30-foot-long object and examined them before releasing them. Both Charles and Calvin both had puncture wounds in one arm. Police tried to catch them in a lie, but it didn't work. Both men later on passed polygraph tests.
Oh, I thought you were going to say passed away. Jesus.
Oh, no. In 1973, Hickson was Parker's foreman at a shipyard, so they were co-workers. The two had gone fishing after work at an abandoned boat launch and were still there after the sun went down. Hickson is quoted saying, "I was just getting ready to get some more bait. When I heard a kind of like a whizzing noise, I looked up and saw a blue flashing light. Calvin turned around too. We saw a 30-foot-long object with a little dome on top. As it hovered above the ground, three small creatures came out. They were also hovering. The men were suddenly paralyzed. The creatures grabbed them with pincher-type claws, and they pulled them towards the object." Hickson said that they were subjected to a physical examination by something that looked like a big eye, and a constant mechanical sound was buzzing the whole time.
Oh my god, you're literally describing him from Powerpuff Girls. Do you remember him?
Yes.
With the fucking crab claws?
Well, I sent you a picture of, like, the drawing of what people, like, assumed it looked like, and this shit is creepy. It has, like, a hat on. Like, it's gonna investigate. I don't know.
Oh, with his little fedora on.
Yeah, exactly. So then Hickson says that they were dropped right back off in the dark where the boat was. Hickson found Parker. He was standing up, arms raised to the sky, and screaming. The riverbank where the men said the close encounter happened got a historical marker, calling it one of the best documented cases of alien abduction. At first, the sheriff's investigators thought the men were drunk or lying. After interviewing Charles and Calvin, they left the room with a recorder that was secretly taping, hoping to find differences in their stories. But they didn't. They kept talking about what they witnessed and how scared they were.
Wait, did they how the fuck did they leave with a record? Did they like plant it on them? They bugged them?
I think they just like probably had one in the room, maybe like in a pocket, or like maybe the investigator had one on them.
Oh, so the boys didn't leave the room. The investigators left the room.
Yeah, and they were like making sure their stories were the same. Okay. And I'm gonna get into what Calvin's story was and what Charles' story was, just so people can see like they're saying the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. Even the Jackson County Sheriff's Captain Glenn Ryder says that we did everything, that we tried to break their stories, but they just kept being the same story. Overnight, it became national news. There was news conferences and cameras in Charles and Calvin's faces. A UFO investigator from Northwestern University fell down. Oh, not fell, it's flew. Just kidding. A UFO investigator from Northwestern University flew down and said their story checked out. Skeptics called them liars or said that Hickson had an episode of sleep paralysis with hallucinations. Believers flooded into Pascagoula by the thousands, wrapped in aluminum foil and sitting all night on the hoods of their cars, waiting for visitors from another place.
Literally us. Okay, get the aluminum foil out. Sarah and I are gonna go to fucking Costco and goddamn buy all their goddamn tin foil.
Hickson was well known in the community. He recounted the experience to anyone who would listen. He went on to Johnny Carson and Dick Cavett. He published a book in 1983. Parker, on the other hand, he just arrived in Pascagoula, and he was from an even smaller town, and he just planned to be there to earn some extra money before returning home to get married. He told the media that he passed out at the beginning and couldn't remember what happened. But this is a lie. He later states in 2018 that he actually does remember what happened, but he was so afraid that the aliens had infected him with something that that when he got home from the sheriff's department, he took a bath in bleach.
Oh.
Yeah, he stayed silent for years about it because he didn't want to, admit what happened.
And I'm not saying I don't believe him. But at the same time,
I could see why people would be skeptical.
Especially if he's not coming out with that information till 2018.
Right.
But again, I'm just trying to be devil's advocate here. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not saying he's lying, because I do believe, the fucking universe is a massive fucking place.
Right.
So I'm not saying that nothing's out there. I'm not saying he's not telling the truth, but I'm just saying.
Right. Within a few weeks of the sighting, he left town, he got married, and began to work. If someone at a job recognized him, he would quit. Hickson has told his story under hypnosis to Johnny Carson on national TV. What Hickson hasn't talked about publicly is that he believes whatever or whoever was on that craft has been keeping track of him. Hickson is quoted saying, "I think they know where I am at all times. Too many strange things have happened." Hickson at this time is 71, not like at this time, but this time of the story, is 71. Right. He's a retired shipyard foreman with 5 children, and he spends most of his time caring for his wife, Blanche.
What a name,
right? But she suffers from arthritis.
Oh, what? Why are you telling us that?
Because I wanted to know why he is, retired and taking care of his wife.
I don't mean to laugh at her arthritis. I just thought it was funny. Your delivery was
yeah,
funny.
I just and she had arthritis. But so Hickson likes to say that he is a man that believes in Jesus, and whether people believe his UFO story, it's not a big deal to him, because he says, if you were in my place right now, I'm not sure I'd believe you or not. But he's saying that as a man that believes in religion, he wouldn't make something like this up. But several people later reported strange lights in the Gulf Coast sky just after the sunset on October 11th, 1973, about the same time that Hickson and Calvin Parker said that they were abducted. One of the people were Mike Cataldo. He's a retired Navy chief. And he lived in Rotunda, West Florida. He said he saw a very strange object on the horizon late that afternoon. A guard also saw the lights, and they were the same blue lights that both Calvin and Charles had described.
Oh.
Hickson says that it really messed Calvin up. He was so young, he just couldn't handle it. In a 1993 interview with the Commercial Appeal in Memphis, Parker said that he was convinced it was demons that were sent directly from Satan who visited them at night. So this is a occurrence that Hickson had. It was late on Saturday night, and Blanche went to bed. The house is quiet and dark except for a lamp that was on in the living room. Hickson said that we got off about 4 o'clock that day and came to my house to get fishing tackle, and then we went and got some shrimp for bait. We tried several places and hadn't caught anything. I said, Calvin, there's one more place I want to try. If they don't bite there, we'll give it up and we'll go home. So Hickson said that they went down towards the fishing boats and started fishing off the pier. We sat there for a while and finally got a bite. I was reeling in and started hearing this hissing sound, like steam coming from a pipe. I looked around and it just startled me. Something was hovering 2 or 3 feet above the ground, probably no more than 10 or 15 yards from us. There were 2 blue flashing lights on the top of the part of the end that was towards us. I couldn't tell if it was round or oblong. I could see a little dome on top, but I couldn't see all the way around the things, so I couldn't tell for sure how big it was. I jumped up and looked at Calvin. He looked very strange. Then a door opened and this bright light came out of it. I couldn't figure out what in the world was happening. I've known fear. I fought for 20 months in hand-to-hand combat in Korea. The only thing I'm scared of is a snake. I'll run from a snake, but this wasn't normal. All of a sudden, these 3 things began coming out of that door. They looked like they had elephant skin, wrinkled, real wrinkled, and triangle-shaped ears that had been like sort of antennas. He says these things were robots. They seemed to come out of the beam of light. They never touched the ground. They moved right out there besides me and Calvin, and I couldn't move, and neither could he. 2 of them came around behind me and took me under each arm. Then they grabbed me. I seemed to rise into their height. They weren't as tall as me, but they sort of had a leaning position. One took Calvin and I saw him go limp. He told me later that he fainted. They took us through the doorway in the middle of a room, and I couldn't see Calvin anymore. There was nothing in there, just a real bright glow. I couldn't move anything but my eyes.
I don't like this shit.
Right? They let go of me. I wasn't touching anything, just kind of floating. All I could think of was, what are you going to do with us? I figured they'd take us off, and we'd never see our families again. I didn't see the robots for a while. Then an eyeball about the size of a football came out of the wall. It moved right in front of my face. I saw dials and gadgets moving around. It went behind me and then came back over me. Then it disappeared into the wall. I was just about out of my mind. I thought they were going to kill me. It seemed like a long time, but it couldn't have been more than a few minutes. The robots came and carried me back outside. They didn't throw me down. They eased me down. And when they did, I fell to the ground. My legs were weak. I saw Calvin standing there, staring out the water. He was in shock. I've seen men in shock. If you don't do something pretty quick, they'll die. I started going over there where he was and saw the craft leave. The blue lights were on again. I remember that. When I got to Calvin, I had to slap him a time or 2. I finally got to him where he could say something. He said, Charlie, what in the world was that? And I said, I didn't know, but they didn't kill us.
Hey, he said, wait, do you think it was really that G-rated? Like, after all that shit happened, do you
Hell
think you're
no.
going to say, what in the world was that?
Right, I would have been like, what in the actual fuck?
If that was you and me, we'd be like, bitch, what the fuck did we just do?
Right, I'd be not
Look,
okay.
Can we Instagram live that shit?
Right,
like,
why don't we
fuck?
take pics?
Hello?
But Charles Hickson died September 9th, 2011 at the age of 80. Calvin Parker finally broke his silence by publishing a book called Pascagoula, The Closest Encounter, My Story. And then here are some readings from Parker's book so you can see how...
I was just going to ask really quick, when did he publish this book?
I think it was 2018 or 2019. I've seen different things, but it was very recent.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Calvin Parker says it was October 11th, 1973. We'd gotten off work that day, and a friend of mine, he and I went fishing. At the old abandoned shipyard, they had a little pier out front, and we were on that pier. I'm going to guess it was about 6 o'clock in the evening. It had just started getting dark, but it was kind of a bright moon. Parker said he noticed blue light reflecting off the water, and his initial thought was law enforcement officers had arrived to tell them that they needed to leave the property. However, Parker looked up and he realized the light was coming from a craft like he'd never seen. So these 2 men and other people have also talked about this bright blue light that they're seeing.
Right.
Parker said then the situation becomes surreal. He said the 3 legless creatures floated from the craft. One had no neck with gray wrinkled skin, another had a neck and appeared more feminine. Parker described their hands as being shaped like mittens or crab claws. I cannot.
I can't either. I hate that. But at the same time, if it was like him, I wouldn't mind. Because him was serving looks.
When one of the creatures put one of its claws around his arm, Parker said he was terrified, but then another feeling came over his body. He says, I think they injected us with something to calm us down. I was kind of numb and went along with the program.
Okay, well, I mean, what else are you going to... I'm going to go along with the... what else are you going to do?
You don't have a choice. Parker said the creatures floated he and Hickson into the craft and performed physical examinations on them. Then they were taken back to the bank of the river. Parker said he didn't want to tell anyone what happened, but Hickson convinced him otherwise. The 2 contacted Kessler Air Force Base, but they were told they should call local authorities, so they contacted the police. So that's why they ended up at the police offices.
Right.
According to Parker, they both passed the sobriety test and polygraph test, and they also did a voice stress test. After decades of not discussing what happened, Parker began to change his mind after attending a funeral where he came in contact with people he hadn't seen in many years and felt like they focused more attention on him than who actually died.
That's interesting, though.
Right. But he's literally quoted saying, I signed the registry at the funeral and people recognized the name. Out of respect for the family, I left. My wife told me on the way home, you need to write about it.
Interesting.
Parker said he felt like everyone deserved an explanation and everyone has an expiration date, and he wanted to get this out before he died. Parker said he's had a lot of near-death experiences and he's in bad health and he just wanted to do it. So years later, a couple came forward after verifying their story after seeing a strange UFO on the same night and location as Calvin and Charles. The couple,
would you look at that?
Okay. The couple were Maria and Vernon Blair. They were sitting in their car looking out across the river when they saw a strange blue light in the sky. Maria said that she thought it was an airplane because of how bright the lights were. She says it just kept on going back and forth across the sky. I told my husband there's something wrong with that plane. It's like he doesn't know where he wants to go. They saw these strange lights for about 40 minutes before getting out of their car and walking down to the pier towards the boat. And this is when Maria spotted a strange figure walking out of the water. She says, we started walking down the pier and something came up out of the water. It was like a person. I said, there's somebody out there. They came up out of the water, then went back down. So I'm standing there waiting for the person, and the water rippled out. I walked down to the boat, and it was about 11:30 p.m. before I came back down to the pier. I was by myself. I ran back to the car. The couple did not know that Charles and Calvin were on the opposite riverbank having terrifying close encounters with aliens.
It would seem so.
Right. The couple claimed that they meaning Charles and Calvin, were captured by 3 alien creatures who came out of the door of the oval-shaped craft. Vernon recalls that the creatures looked like they had lobster-like claws at the end of their arms, and carrot-like growths for their noses, ears, and their heads also appeared to connect directly to their shoulders with no neck.
I'm like really trying to visualize that.
Oh, just wait till you see the pic.
Okay.
The creature's skin was described as pale in color, wrinkled with no eyes, and slits for mouths. Maria and Vernon Blair set to find Calvin Parker, but had no luck due to him hiding out. They ended up finding Calvin Parker in March of 2019 when he published his book. Like I said, it's not clear if he did it in 2018 and 2019, but whenever he published his book, that's how they found him. The couple said it was a very emotional meeting from the beginning, and it started out with both of them tearing up and automatically bonding. Calvin Parker even said, I felt like I had known her for years. It started off with her telling me that she saw the abduction on October 11th, 1973, but didn't know who was involved until the following day. This was, of course, me and Charles Hickson. So she kept this to herself, telling me that she would think about it every night and worry about me. Thank God I wrote that book as it helped us come together. Maria, who now lives in Theodore, Alabama, said, I enjoy meeting Calvin. It was like we always had known each other forever. He is truly a wonderful person. And that is the story of Pascagoula Abduction.
Wow.
Wasn't that so nice? Like a nice ending? Because he, ended up meeting someone who, could share. I mean, obviously those things didn't happen to them, and his, story's a lot more traumatizing, but, that's some person that can say, hey, I saw it, I know it's real, I know that what you're saying is real.
Right. I was literally just gonna say that it's, a validation of, yo, I saw the same shit you saw, You're not crazy.
Exactly.
I just think it's so bizarre that he waited. Like, I guess you could always make the argument that they wanted to be famous because he did end up on Johnny Carson.
Well, that's what people, they said that Charles wanted to be famous, but it ended up coming out that Calvin was actually, like, helping him pay his bills.
I don't know. I feel like any way that you look at it, anybody who doesn't want to believe that there's not life out there is either they're going to make something up or they're going to have a reason as to like, well, you could say he was helping him pay the bills. So the fact that he was helping him pay his bills would be the initiative to initially have fame in the first place.
Right.
But they didn't get all that money that they anticipated. Mm-hmm. But I'm thinking it's interesting that he waited till 2018 to write a story about it.
Same here, but I guess
but
everyone
at the same
has
time,
their own, like, you know.
We've said it before, we'll say it again. If you think we are the only life on, like,
you're wrong
in this universe, like, let's expand our minds a little bit.
Okay.
I mean, I understand why some people are skeptical. Have a healthy dose of skepticism because there are people out there who are going to want to get money from being quote unquote abducted, but like, I've seen UFOs. I've pulled over onto the side of the road and then I had weird shit happen the next day. Like, it's
spooky.
Weird shit, for real. What did I say? Spooky action at a distance.
Okay.
Is that what I called it? Spooky action.
Spooky action.
Yeah, that's what it was. Can we do like a little spooky ritual and just try to see if we can conjure up a little sugar daddy alien to come in?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like also the thing that they just like follow you forever, and it's just like it's not that one time. It's like a million times after that, and I just don't think I can handle. I was gonna actually do a story on this woman. She had got abducted, but she ended up killing herself because of everything like that was happening and all the stress that it gave her. And I was like, I want to do something lighthearted.
Yeah, I mean that's why we're kind of taking a break from all the murders. Mm-hmm. I mean, Okay, so I have a story, but before I get into it, have you heard about the face on Mars?
No, tell me about it.
Okay, I'm going to butcher this, but Sidonius? I don't know. So it's a region on the planet Mars, and it's attracted both scientific and popular interest. It has regions of flat-topped, mesa-like features, and it's also got small hills and knobs, and then it's also got complex valleys. So it's got everything you need. Come on down to Sidonius. Oh,
Wait.
you know why I can't pronounce it? Because I didn't put a fucking space.
Oh my God.
It's called
Stop it.
Sidonia. Oh my
Sidonia.
God. You can just unsubscribe. No, please don't. Okay, let me Sidonia. Oh my fucking God. Sidonia that was the beginning of the sentence, not Sidonia's ass. Jesus fuck. Anyway, like I was saying, it's got everything. Come on down to Sidonia. But it also contains the face on Mars, which is located about halfway between these two craters that are unpronounceable.
Love that.
Basically, Sidonia was first imaged in detail by Viking 1 and Viking 2 orbiters. So there were 18 images of Sidonia, the Sidonia region on Mars, that were taken by these orbiters. Out of all of those, only about 7 of them were good quality images, but still they weren't great quality.
Right.
Basically, they were taken on July 25th, 1976, and what they captured appeared to be a humanoid face. It's like this rock formation almost that just kind of looks like a really creepy fucking face. So originally, a scientist named Jerry Soffin, he dismissed the face on Mars image as a, quote, trick of light and shadow.
Oh, fuck. They always debunking.
But which, I mean, when I first saw it, I was like, okay, it could just be like a little canyon with like the light hitting it in a different way. But there was a second image, like I said, that shows the face, and it was acquired about 35 orbits later at a different sun angle. The latter was discovered independently by these two guys. They were two computer engineers from NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. So they're not just Joe Schmoes. They're just like, oh shit, there's a weird face on Mars.
Right.
These images were published, and a lot of people believe that the face on Mars is evidence to long-lost Martian civilizations, along with other features that they believe are present, such as apparent pyramids, which they argue are part of a ruined city on Mars itself.
Oh, wow. Who can it be now?
On the contrary, the face is also a common topic among skeptic groups who pretty much use it as an example of gullibility, pretty much anybody just believing something at face value. No pun intended.
Oh, look at that.
Truly. But just basically believing something wholeheartedly without looking into it. They're just like, oh, that's actually just a rock formation. It has nothing to do with a Martian civilization. But who knows? Who fucking knows? At this point, we don't really know exactly what it is, but there's also craters really close to this place on Mars. One looks like a giant smiley face, and another one resembles Kermit the motherfucking Frog.
Oh, I can't. That's so funny.
Right, and it's so weird because I was listening to Murd-Up. If y'all don't listen to the Murd-Up podcast, you need to go fix your decisions. But they were talking about Kermit the Frog at the top of their episode today, and I'm like, wow, what a coincidence. Unless we are spooky action at a distance.
Unless aliens are trying to tell us they love themselves, some Kermit the Frog.
Right, that could be it,
Okay.
honestly. Jim Henson, what it do, what's up? So, a little side fact is that characters from Call of Duty Infinite Warfare are from this area near the face on Mars.
Oh,
bitch.
wow.
Right.
Little storyline for you.
Right. 20 years after those photos were taken, scientists were able to take better, higher quality photos of Mars. And in these new images, they kind of just look like simple rocky ranges, like Rocky Mountain ranges.
Right.
But to me, it looks different. Maybe the light's hitting it differently. I don't know. But these new pictures don't exactly look like what they used to look like before. But who am I? Who am I?
Who do I know?
Who do you think you are? I am.
Oh, I love that.
All right, and I'm briefly going to go over my last thing. Oh, my last story, which is about Story Musgrave. That's his name, Story Musgrave.
Oh my god, I thought you were trying to make a pun to Casey.
Nope, his name is Story.
Oh, okay.
And what he saw in space. So, a brief history. Franklin Story Musgrave was born on August 19th, 1935, and he grew up in Stockbridge, Massachusetts. He attended the Dexter School in Brookline, Massachusetts, Massachusetts, and St. Mark's School in Southborough, Massachusetts. He dropped out of St. Mark's his senior year when a car accident caused him to miss a substantial amount of vital pre-graduation exam schooling. He ended up going to the Marines. He got his GED. He got honorably discharged. He ended up getting his bachelor's in mathematics and statistics from Syracuse. Basically, I'm giving you this background so you know it's not just some random Joe schmo. So he gets all of this education, and after leaving school, and there's more. There's like, if you go onto Wikipedia, he goes to like 5 different schools. After leaving school, he enlists in the Marine Corps in 1953. He went through some fucked up shit while he was there. His aviator brother, Percy, was on the same craft as him, and he died on a mission when the carrier he was driving ran him over after takeoff.
Oh, shit.
He ended up flying over 17,700 hours in 160 different types of civilian and military aircrafts. Though he did not qualify as a pilot, he still was experienced. He was also an accomplished parachutist, and he made over 800 free falls. He made over 800 free falls. I'm sorry. I gotta go. No, thank you. So then in 1994, his life got stranger when he got a stalker. This is kind of side railing from the main story, but I just thought this was interesting. Her name was Margaret Mary Ray, and she pretended to be a reporter and interviewed him at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. In September 1997, she actually showed up at his house in Florida. She claimed that she and Musgrave were writing a book together, stating, I love Dr. Musgrave. I would die for him. He is a man of integrity and intelligence.
Man, would he die for you?
Right. But she had a lot of issues. She eventually served time in a Florida jail for trespassing on his property and for stalking. Before she ended up stalking him, she actually stalked David Letterman.
Oh, that's awkward. I mean, not awkward, it's random.
That's very random. And she ended up getting diagnosed with schizophrenia and erotomania. Her story has a very dark end, so I'm not going to go down that path. Mm-hmm. But anyway, prior to John Glenn's return from space in 1998, Musgrave held the record for the oldest person in orbit at the age of 61. And he ended up being retired from NASA in 1997. So something crazy happened when he was up there, and he actually had a camera on him, which is what I think is interesting because there is video footage of this, which I will be posting on our website. So he did an interview with Omni Magazine talking about what he saw, the strange things that he saw up there. So he said, quote, "You see satellites. I've been in Murgo within 28 miles, and you don't know what they are, but maybe just space debris. All kinds of debris came off spaceships, especially at the back end or often after the main engines shut down and you open the doors, ice chips, oxygen." Basically, he's just saying you see a lot of shit in space, but most of the shit you see in space is just debris from, it's either ice chips or just random shit.
Right, random shit that's up there.
Right. However, 2 flights, this is a quote, "On 2 flights, I've seen and photographed what I call, quote, the snake."
Oh, shit.
Like a 7-foot eel swimming out there.
Get out of here.
It may be an uncritical rubber seal from the main engines. In 0G, it's totally free to maneuver, and it had its own internal waves like it was swimming. So he goes on in this, and there's actually a comment on this article. And the comment on the article says, "I think that's false."
Ew, get out of here.
Right, and it was written by user welcome_to_flavortown.
No,
And it is Guy Fieri in the picture. So,
look at that.
There's that. So he did take a video of this, and it looks really fucking weird. He also recorded a large disc-shaped object below the Columbia when he was flying in the shuttle, and it was approximately 190 nautical miles high. He said, I see it like described a lot of times as a cigar shape. That's kind of what a lot of people are saying it looks like. So during an earlier interview, Dr. Musgrave stated he attempted to communicate with extraterrestrial life forms during each of his 6 missions that he had gone on. He said he actually asked them to take him with them.
Oh.
He goes on to say that he believes things are out there, but he doesn't know if he's seen any. And then something weird happens, okay? On Friday, July 10th, 1998, Musgrave was the keynote speaker at a convention for firefighters and emergency medical technicians at the Tampa Convention Center in Tampa, Florida. Mm-hmm. And here's a little excerpt from the interview. So the interviewer asks, "Have you ever had any personal experiences with what you would consider an unknown object?" He says, "None, and no astronaut ever has." Interviewer asks, "No astronaut?" He says, "No, no astronaut has ever had experience with something that has a signature of intelligent life." Interviewer says, "Well, what about Gordon Cooper's experience?" Now, if you don't know Gordon Cooper, he worked for NASA. I don't know all the details on it, so I'm not going to get too deep into it, but basically he was saying the government is hiding things about UFOs. Mm-hmm. They're hiding things about extraterrestrial life. I've seen it with my own eyes. I have. Seen it with my own eyes. I did. And basically he went off on the government. So this interviewer is asking Story Musgrave. He says, "What about Gordon Cooper's experience?" Musgrave says, "I know Gordon Cooper. No, he did not." Interviewer asks, "No?" He says, "No." And he shut the conversation down. Ooh. So I don't know what happened there.
Right.
But you can watch clips of the video, which are actually kind of hard to find. But I will post them on social media and you can come to a conclusion yourself. Look, here's the thing. Who's to say that there's no fucking space snake out there just squiggling its way around town looking for a lady space snake trying to get, nasty with it?
Right.
I don't know.
And why would he lie?
Right. Why would he lie? And then, but also, why would he then switch it around to be like, "No, I've never seen anything"? It just sounds like robotic.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the aliens contacted him and they were like, "If you share this shit, we'll probe you." I don't know. You never know.
Or the government said something. They were
yes,
like, "You
or
share
the
this
government.
Shit, we'll probe you."
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's about it on space. At least that's what I got.
I think we covered a lot of good stuff. We got a lot of different stories in there.
I think we covered literally every single possibility in space. I'm just kidding. So we did cover. This was like a mod podge. I like this episode. This
it was like a lot of different things at once.
Definitely a nice break from the horrifying murder
that we have to cover.
So I have a fun fact and you have a tweet of the week. Would you like to share your tweet first?
Yes, my tweet of the week is from @RavenRayBaby. It says, manifestation is real. Please start speaking positively into your life. Stop changing the way you think. Change the way you speak.
Amen.
Okay.
But also maybe change the way you think.
True.
So my fun fact, which I ironically found not looking for a space fact, is that a small percentage of the static you see on dead TV screens, you know, when you like, it's like snow on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
A small percentage of that static you see on TV stations is leftover radiation from the Big Bang.
Oh shit, I did not know that.
You're seeing residual effects of the universe's creation.
Wow, so weird.
So weird.
I love how you did your fun fact about space.
Yeah, and I actually wasn't looking about a fun. I wasn't actually looking up. Am I okay today?
I'm not.
I wasn't actually looking up a fun fact about space.
It comes when it's needed.
Maybe it's a message from the aliens.
Okay.
Well, here's a message from the aliens. Make sure you follow us on social media and give us a 5 stars and a good review. We would appreciate it. The aliens would appreciate it. You can take your tinfoil hat off because we're going to wrap it up. And you should wrap it up too. Make sure you have safe sex.
True that.
And with that being said, we'll catch you next time, guys.
Bye,
Thank you so much for
guys.
listening. Bye.